Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Thursday, July the 20th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our first and only show of this week. Hope your week has been treating you well here. First off, before we get started, couple of things. Couple of things. First off, today was the deadline for the 7th annual In the Spotlight TV Award ballot request. Now, that's, of course, the ballot requests are for those of you that want to participate in the Spotlight TV Awards. You must submit in order to have a ballot, you have to submit a request to us by email at itspotlight411@gmail.com. And once you do that, we'll respond by sending you a ballot, and you'll be able to be involved in the process. If you have not done that by now, the deadline has come and gone. The deadline was 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern tonight. So that deadline is come and gone. We will not accept any more ballot requests for the TV awards. So that deadline has passed. For those of you that have submitted a ballot request, most of not all of you by now have probably received a ballot. If you haven't, you're probably one of about 30 or so people that hasn't. But most people have received their ballots. And as soon as you receive your ballot, you can start, working on it and getting it all situated and getting it all ready to go. So we're now out of the first phase of this. We're into the second phase. And again, the deadline for the ballots for the 7th annual, for the nomination ballots for the 7th annual In the Spotlight TV Awards is Thursday, August the 3rd. Okay, remember Thursday, Thursday, August the 3rd is the deadline for that. And then, of course, on Thursday, August the 10th, we will announce the nominations for the 7th annual In the Spotlight TV Awards. And, of course, the TV Awards, again, will take place on Thursday, September the 7th. So keep all that in mind. So I wanted to note that right off the top. Before we get into some of the other things, let me first remind you all of the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our page once you find it. Now, tonight, we have as always, and it's always going to be the case this summer because of the fact that we're only doing one show a week for at least the duration of it. We have a lot of things to do tonight. We have sports, entertainment, wrestling. We got a whole hodgepodge of things tonight. On the entertainment side of things, though, I'm going to be honest with you, we're only going to do one thing. And that is going to be the box office beat. That's all we're going to do. I know we had D23 last weekend. We got San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. We'll have you covered. We'll talk about all that. I was going to do something with D23 tonight, but because of circumstance, I decided not to. I thought it'd be better to do all that stuff all at once. We have so many other things to get to tonight. I thought it best to wait. Plus, my co-host isn't here tonight, and I think he'd want to comment on some of those things. So I thought it best to wait until he's in the fold. So I thought I'd wait until, until he comes back and he can comment on that. And we'll keep this, putting the San Diego Comic-Con and D23 stuff together makes sense anyway, because, we can just make a whole show on all the latest news and stuff. And I think it gives us a little bit more time to play. We have so much other stuff to get to. So this way we can give it all its due and allow it to, give it all its due and be able to talk about everything as much as we possibly can. So that's why we're not going to do any D23 stuff tonight. San Diego Comic-Con stuff we'll do next week as well. So D23 and San Diego Comic-Con, we'll talk about all that stuff next week on next week's program. So just keep that in mind if you're wondering why we're not doing anything with that. So we'll keep all that for next week. Also, TV highlights we're not going to do tonight because, like I said, my co-host isn't here. And lately it's been him doing that, mostly because I'm not watching much TV, so as far as new stuff goes. It's more him. So, I'm watching sports and stuff like that. So it makes more sense. So really it's only been him of late doing that. So, because he's not here, I'll leave that off the show until next week and bring that back next week. So entertainment-wise, this is the box office beat. Sports-wise, we have a couple of things I want to get to. Some Major League Baseball trades that have taken place that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the latest in baseball. Some things have been going on. Plus, we're heading towards the All-Star break now, so it makes sense to pick up the baseball discussions we did last week with the All-Star festivities and all that kind of stuff. And then we got a LeBron James thing to talk about, because this bears watching here as we approach the season, as we go through the rest of this offseason. It's a developing thing. It's going to obviously take the league by storm come October as the season goes on, because, things are getting dicey between the Cavs and LeBron James, and it's worth talking about. So we will do that. We'll talk a little bit about that here tonight as well. We got the U.S. Open, not the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do anything with that. I don't think it's worth talking about. There's not much going on there, so I'm not going to do anything with the PGA or anything like that. Not because I don't want to, but because I just think. Not because I don't want to, but I just think it's not. Again, there's not. The PGA Tour has been just a wreck this year. It's been a wreck this year. Again, with Tiger not being there, Phil being in and out, it's just been rough. A lot of their stars ain't doing well, or they're not on the tour. It's just been rough this year. I don't think anybody's really even focused on it. So, but anyway. We'll leave that alone. We won't do anything with that. So on the sports side of things, that's all we're going to do is the baseball and the LeBron James stuff, and we'll do that. Because I think that's really all you all indicated that you think is worth talking about. So we'll leave it at that. And then wrestling, we got Raw to talk about. We got SmackDown to talk about. We got Battleground, which is coming up on Sunday, to talk about. We'll preview the matches. And look, this is not a big pay-per-view, so if I'm going to have to do one by myself, this is the one to do. I mean, this is the pay-per-view very few people care about. It really is the epitome of a filler, throwaway pay-per-view that nobody cares about. And it's not like a couple weeks ago, like Great Balls of Fire and came off like a big deal. Somehow it did, but it did. This doesn't come off like anything more than just, it almost comes off thrown together. I mean, I don't know if it's, you can make the argument that they just kind of crapped the bed and said, hey, let's just throw it out there and then get ready for SummerSlam. But anyway, we'll talk about it. And we'll also talk about, I didn't put this in the show description, but I think it's worth talking about. We'll talk about the Brock Lesnar rumor. I'm not going to do a lot with that because, number one, who knows what's going on there. I don't think anything's imminent. And it's something that we'll no doubt be talking about a lot as we approach WrestleMania next year. So, and my co-host Mike and others might talk about it throughout the next couple months. So I'm not going to do a lot with that, but, we'll bring it up. So a lot to do here on this Thursday. So we'll get going here. But first, it's been a rough week in a lot of ways on a number of levels. I always hate to have to mention sad things or horrible things or tragic things, but we have to. First off, let's mention the shocking news today involving Linkin Park's singer Chester Bennington, who died at the age of 41 today, allegedly committing suicide. Many of you out there might have grown up on Linkin Park. Obviously, I knew Linkin Park. They're huge. This was a very, very shocking story, and so young, age of 41. So I want to make sure, and this is a fairly recent thing. It just took place this afternoon, or it got out this afternoon that this had happened. So we want to extend our condolences and thoughts and prayers to Chester Bennington's family, friends, and loved ones, and his fans as well. And may he rest in peace. A true talent, and so young to go like that with 6 children, and it's a sad story. And again, our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Chester Bennington. Also, we talked about this story last Thursday. I want to bring this up before I get to the other things. The Walking Dead stuntman, John Bernacker. Last Thursday, when we last joined you, there was a lot of confusion over whether he had passed away or not. And it turns out he had. He has. He didn't pass away. It seems like he didn't pass away when they said he did. He was on life support, and there was deliberation over, his family deliberating over what they were going to do, and so there was a lot of jumping the gun, and some news releases were put out there that shouldn't have been. I obviously apologize because I was quoting those news releases that were wrong and erroneous. But he did not pass away when they said he did, and that what happened, the way it was reported, was horrible. Those that published those erroneous reports and those that came out with releases when he hadn't passed away yet were completely wrong to do so. But he has passed away since then. And again, it's a horrible, we talked about this last week, a horrible, tragic story. And we once again want to express our thoughts and condolences to John Bernecker's family, friends, and loved ones, the cast and crew of The Walking Dead, everybody involved. A very tragic, sad situation that took place there. And obviously they're still reeling from it. And may he rest in peace. He was a true talent. He was very good at what he did. Very well liked, very loved, and he will be missed. That's again another sad, tragic story here of late. And a couple other things here. We lost two big talents over the weekend here. Starting first with George Romero. George Romero, if you're a fan of the zombie genre of horror, you know who George Romero is. George Romero, Night of the Living Dead creator, Tales from the Dark Side is a TV show of his, wrote books. He gruesome, satirical horror films. A very talented mind. There's no Walking Dead without George Romero. Okay. Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, The Crazies, Martin, The Dark Half, so many things. The zombie genre, the horror genre, is not what it is without him. He was a true gifted director, screenwriter, editor, just an amazing talent. And he died last week at the age of 77 after a battle with lung cancer. So, again, a legendary talent, and we want to obviously express our thoughts and condolences and prayers to his family, friends, and loved ones. And may he rest in peace. Again, another sad piece of news there. And then we have Martin Landau, who, again, another very talented man who, gosh, I don't even know where you start. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drift off here. I was just reading something. So many movies. His career spans all the way into the 50s. 1950s, from Treasure Island to Empire State to Paint It Black. God, I'm just trying to think of the movies off the top of my head. Ed Wood. I know he made an appearance in the X-Files. This would be how he was into the film. Academy Award-winning actor. Very gifted actor. His career spans to the 50s. He was on Broadway. He, Tucker, The Man in His Dream, Crimes and Misdemeanors. Just trying to think of all these different movies he did. He was on Mission Impossible, the TV series. Just a very gifted actor. And he passed away last week, and at the age of 89. So again, another huge loss for Hollywood and for in general. So we want to again give our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones, and may he rest in peace. Again, another Another great talent gone. And then there's another piece of news today, and I just want to do this because he's a great patriot. He's you know, his accolades and his accomplishments are well documented. And I don't like to make things about politics. I'm leaving politics out of this because if you look at him if you take politics out of it, just look at him from the standpoint of a man who is a military veteran and has done a lot for this country and went through a hell of a lot in his life. John McCain is who I'm talking about here. There was some surprising news about John McCain. He is dealing with brain cancer, a very aggressive form of brain cancer, and he's obviously that's very serious stuff. And cancer is an awful disease, and we all, in some way, shape, or form, probably have known somebody touched by cancer, and it's a horrible disease that we hope and pray that we're finding a cure to and that we can put an end to. But that was the news today that John McCain is suffering from an aggressive form of brain cancer. He's already had surgery. He's looking at treatment options. I just want to have a moment here and send out some prayers to John McCain and his family and his friends and his loved ones during this difficult time. He is a tough man. He is a strong man, and I think most of us feel confident that he will beat this because that's the kind of man he is. He's great strength, great courage. And I want to just give a shout out here to him and give some just mention that our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family during this difficult time because it's a horrible disease, and I hope and pray for him and his family that they get through this and that he makes it through this and he beats this and gets back to work and gets back to doing what he does. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we noted that. Our prayers and thoughts go with John McCain and his family during this very, very, very difficult time. So that was a lot of bad stuff going on recently, which, again, happens, you notice these things tend to happen in spurts. We talked about last year, how rough of a year last year was. That's what happens. These things happen in spurts. So, very, very sad few days, a week really, on a number of levels. And I just wanted to start off by mentioning all of that. All right, so let's jump in here we'll start with the entertainment. As I said, the only thing we'll do on entertainment is box office, so we'll start with that. But really quickly, I just want to bring this up. Also, I want to bring this up. I mentioned that my co-host is not here tonight. Mike is not here tonight. Maybe if we're on late enough, he'll join us later, but I doubt it. I don't think he'll be on late enough for him to join us tonight. But he is not with us tonight. He has a work thing, so for those wondering, that's what he's off doing. He thought he was going to be able to be on the show tonight and be back in time. Turns out he was wrong. He let me know that yesterday. So that's why if we knew that he was going to be gone, we would have probably done the show on Tuesday instead of Thursday, but we did not know that. So that's why I'm here on my own tonight, and that's fine. I can do a show by myself. It's not the worst thing. I do the Gridiron Grind, the NFL show, all year by myself, so I'm used to it. But I just want to make sure, because I know people are going to ask questions. Where is he? Why isn't he on the show? Well, that's why he's not on the show. He'll be back next week. So just wanted to note that. All right, so let's get into the box office here, and it wasn't the best weekend. It is summer still, even though you wouldn't know it. I mean, if you look at the box office since Spider-Man came out, it doesn't. I mean, I know Dunkirk could potentially play well this weekend. I don't think it's going to be playing huge, but this summer really, even, I mean, you got Dunkirk, you got Valerian, you got Dark Tower, and a few. This summer really ended with Spider-Man. If you really truly think about it, I mean. If you really truly think about it, it ended with Spider-Man. Usually as you go through July, you still have a few things. And you got Dunkirk, you got Valerian. I mean, you got some things. But realistically, in terms of the movies that you think are going to do big business, and it ended with Spider-Man. And we'll probably talk more about this later on as we go into the fall. This summer, for a year in which we all thought could be record breaking. And really, a lot of people thought it would be like, okay, a lot of records might break this year, but then next year, wow, those same records might be broken. Next year really is even more stacked than this year. But the thing is, if you really look at the way this year has gone at the box office, and January's January, February played exactly how it was supposed to. March played as well as it was supposed, if not better. April played okay. May played, I guess you can say it played decent. They were higher than probably, the expectations were probably higher than they should have been. But it played good enough. And then June played okay on the strength of Wonder Woman. But if you really look at this summer, it's going to be looked at as not very strong. And it's going to be one of the shorter box office summers, I think, in terms of length. Because when you talk about the summer box office in its most recent and current form, ever since May of 2002, when Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie was released, changing the game, changing the summer box office season from June, July, August to May, June, July, with a little dash of August. Okay? Ever since that changed, all right, we know what the box office is. It's May, June, July, and maybe going into about the second, maybe third week of August. If you really look at this year, you had May be what it usually is. You had June be okay. But I mean, it wasn't the best June, but it was June. And then you have the first 2 weeks of July, and that's it. Like I said, you got Dunkirk, got Valerian, you got Dark Tower, you got some big movies, few movies still up, but none of these movies are going to do like you've seen in sometimes past years some movies do in late July, maybe even early August. I don't think they will. So the summer is kind of, for the most part, in terms of big movie draws, done. It's pretty much done. And it's kind of surreal because we're not used to that. You still got, 2 more weeks left, really. 2 more weekends left in July, and you got all of August. So kind of different, surreal to kind of think about if you think about, Now, like I mentioned, Spider-Man came out 2 weeks ago now. And in the second weekend, it did drop considerably, but, nothing too worrisome. And War for the Planet of the Apes, I thought it would be closer between the two. Both movies did relatively better than I expected. I was going for like 40 million. I thought Spider-Man would fall into that 35, 40 million. I thought Planet of the Apes would be 30 to 35. Planet of the Apes finished with 56.2, Spider-Man 44.2. So they both, Spider-Man dropped off 62%. But it still finished above what I thought it would, which and it came in second. So I guess there's positive and negative here. It came in second, but positive in that it finished better than I expected. And Planet of the Apes did much better than I would have anticipated. So, now it didn't do as well as the second one. But, again, I thought it could have been worse, and it wasn't. So, was it a surprise that it beat Spider-Man? No. I thought it could. I thought it could. But I didn't think it was strong enough. And I thought Spider-Man, on the heels of all the buzz from, all the buzz it got, the positive buzz, all the critical, the positivity from the critics, positivity from the fans, the momentum it had, the big first weekend, which was better than people thought it was probably going to be, which I didn't think it was too shocking that it did what it did. But I thought it would carry that through to the second weekend. Now, again, I thought it would do worse than it did in terms of gross, and it didn't. So I think it did carry that through. The difference was Planet of the Apes did better much better than I thought it would, about 20 million better than I thought it would, and Spider-Man even did better. Just it wasn't enough to get it. And again, the thing I think we mentioned this last week, the concern that you had with Spider-Man was that more than any other Marvel superhero, he plays more to kids. Okay, it doesn't mean that adults don't go check out Spider-Man. It doesn't mean that people in their 50s and 60s don't go see Spider-Man. It doesn't mean that. But so much of Spider-Man's audience is younger than any other Marvel superhero. So, yes, they're the ones that are going to come out and see it earlier, right? But they're also not going to be ones that repeat it because, parents are not going to take these 7, 8, 9-year-olds, okay, to see the movie repeatedly. They can't afford to, and they're not going to. So you're going to get repeated viewings, but you're going to get repeated viewings from the older audience, maybe the teenagers, the college age or above. That's where you're going to get the repeated viewings from, and that's what's going to carry this movie forward. So that's why seeing such a drop-off is not shocking, and it's not really that worrisome. You won't see that with any of the other Marvel superheroes, which also, they have their younger fans. I'm not saying an 8-year-old's not seeing Captain America, okay? But they have more fans that play older and more fans that are going to go see it again and again and again. It's the way it is. I also think, too, despite all the rave reviews, there were probably some people that still have not gone out to see Spider-Man because they're afraid of what happened after the first 2 movies. After the last 2 movies, I should say. I think it's got Batman Begins syndrome. Where Batman Begins was a brilliant movie. Brilliant movie. But people were afraid to go and see the movie because of how bad Batman and Robin was, or the last 2 Batmans were. They stayed away from it. No matter how many people said it was good, they didn't go and see. The movie. So, that's what happens sometimes. You fight an uphill battle in a way. And then once it comes out, maybe it gets seen on TV or it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. People give it a chance then. And then they go, oh, God, this movie was so good. And then they come out in droves for the next couple movies in the franchise, like Dark Knight Rises, because they now realize that different people are in charge and the movies are better. So, that's maybe what's going to happen with Spider-Man, especially since it's going to be in Avengers and everything. It's going to, it'll build and build and build, and it'll do better for each and every movie. But was it shocking to see it drop off like that? No. And again, it did better than I expected. It's like Planet of the Apes did. And War for the Planet of the Apes did probably, I know it didn't do as well as the second movie, but it did well enough. And it carried itself well, and it's well on it's there's nothing really concerning here. It's at $125.4 million worldwide and $150 million budget. So it's more than likely going to do okay in the end. So no, I don't think there's anything concerning at the top of this last week's box office. Despicable Me 3, another movie that I thought did better than I thought it would. Came in at $19.3 million in third, a 42% drop up. Again, did better than I thought it would. I was expecting it to be in the lower teens, like 12, 13 million. It did much better than that. And it's now up to, on an $80 million budget, $631.8 million. It might not cross that $1 billion mark, but it still did very well for an animated film. And overseas, it's doing great business, up over $430 million overseas. It's great business. One of this summer's biggest surprises has been Baby Driver. I call it this year's Now You See Me. It came in fourth, and it pulled another $8.7 million, only dropping 33%, which, again, continues to hold very well. It's an R-rated movie. It's not going to do a huge business anyway. But it's done very, very well, despite the theater counts, despite all the competition. It's done very, very well in a very tough, competition. I mean, it came out around 4th of July weekend. It's done very, very well. $34 million budget up to $100 million, $100.3 million. It's terrific for the kind of movie it is and the time of year it is. Terrific. The Big Sick, they expanded into 2,271 more theaters, came in 5th with $7.5 million. Not too bad. It's up over about 18 million now. Not too bad. Given the time of year, not too bad. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Could be worse. Made top 5. It's not bad. Much better than I would have thought. Wonder Woman continues to do extremely well. Came in 6th, dropping from 4th with 6.8 million, a 30% drop off. Again, it continues to hold very well from week to week. If you look at it, splits so far through yesterday, 383.5 million domestic, 385.3 foreign, almost even, which is unheard of nowadays. We're in a climate where overseas total tends to be more than domestic. Right down the middle, a very, very good split. And it's up to 768.8 million as it continues its trajectory and it's climbed up the all-time ladder. It's done very, very well. We talked about it. It's one of the stories of the summer. Very good there. And one of the other new releases last week was a movie called Wish Upon, and it did very poorly. 5.4 million in 7th place. It's only got a $12 million budget, so it ain't too much of a loss here. It's up to 7.5 now. It'll probably make enough to break even. Maybe make a small profit. Again, low risk kind of deal. So, and that was always in the realm. I told you all it could do very poorly. I thought it would do a little bit better than it did. But you know what? It's never out of the realm for these kind of movies to not do well. And, again, not too much of a risk. And in the end, it ends up okay. Again, it'll probably break even, maybe make a small profit. So it's not too damaging to the studio. But, again, it was one of those things that, well promoted. I just didn't, never knew how much it was going to catch on with audiences, and clearly it didn't catch on very well. So all in all, you had the 3 top movies do better than expected. Everything else, Big Sick probably did a little bit better than expected as well. Wonder Woman continued to do well. Wish Upon did worse than maybe expected, but again, that wasn't shocking. Baby Driver continues to hold well. So all in all, it was a positive, I think. But compared to past summers, you got to look at this and go, oh, number 1 movie was 56.2. You might not think that's great. It's not bad. You might not think it's great. And especially in a summer like this year where, you had a couple of big stories like Wonder Woman and Spider-Man and, Guardians of the Galaxy and a few other, you've had a couple of big stories, but there hasn't been too many. So when you add in another week like this, even though it's not a bad week, it's a pretty good week. It still gets seen as a negative in a way. People are going to look at this and go, this is the kind of week you see in like in a February or something for a couple good movies coming out, around winter break and stuff like that. That's not the kind of week you see in the summer, but it is what it is. It's more of a February kind of total when there's a couple big movies out, more so than it is July total. But again, it is what it is. So that's the story from last weekend. Again, I see it as a positive. I think most people probably won't, but whatever. This weekend, we flip the script here, and we go to a weekend that's got 3 major releases. And nobody really knows what to expect. Nobody really knows what to expect this weekend. The biggest release is an action thriller from Warner Brothers called Dunkirk, opening in 3,720 theaters, PG-13, $150 million budget, which is lower than I would have thought it was. Directed and written and produced by Christopher Nolan, starring Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, Cillian Murphy, Harry Styles, and James Darcy. The thing that's going to help this movie, because history movies, they're very hit or miss. Some people, and then there's a lot of people that just don't want to see it. They don't want to relive things. They don't want to go through this. You need to go through a war movie, that kind of thing. You have to fight against that. And then this time of year is not really conducive to movies of this nature. At least not anymore. You don't see too many of them released at this time. But Christopher Nolan pretty much owns the 3rd week of July, so that's kind of why he releases his movies then. But with the exception of Interstellar, which he opened in November. But at this point, Christopher Nolan has built up. Obviously a fan base from the Batman movies and all his other movies, Inception and Interstellar. This movie will get seen, and this movie will probably get seen enough to be number 1. Now the question is, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at last weekend, like we did last weekend, where you got War of the Planet of the Apes coming at 56 million? Maybe that's what you're looking at, and I think that's reasonable. I think a $50 million or so total is reasonable. I don't know if I can see this movie doing better than that. I don't know if I can see it doing better than that. Because I know a lot of people particularly stay away from these kind of movies. You know, I don't know. There's some people that think it could break records for war movies because it's Christopher Nolan. I don't know. My take on it is I look at it from the standpoint of, um, you think back to Interstellar. I don't even know if it can pull in that, to be honest, in its opening weekend. But my take on it is you look back at last weekend with the War of the Planet of the Apes and how it pulled in, 56 million. I think that's kind of what you look at here. I would go low end, and if it ends up higher, it ends up higher. Do I think it can? Absolutely. How much higher do I think it has the potential to go? Maybe 80 million. I don't know if I can see it doing better than that. Again, and even that, again, I don't know if I see that. I think it plays, again, you got a war movie, people try to stay away from those. Sometimes they wait and see how people react. They don't really necessarily go with critics on it. Sometimes people wait to react, or hear other people react, family members and such, and then they go out and see it. These movies also tend to play more to older audiences who don't necessarily rush out to see the movie. So generally, like I said, I'm going to go 50, 55 million, that kind of range for this movie, which would probably be enough to take it to number one. Especially since even though it's got a very good cast and some names in the cast, none of them are people that draw huge. Actually, the person that draws the hugest in this movie is Christopher Nolan at this point. So as far as track record goes, so we'll see. I'd say 50, 55 million around there. Again, as potential, probably go as high as 80, but I don't know if I don't feel confident enough to say that, like to predict that or anything. So the second biggest movie is a movie that I think could be one of the bigger flops of the summer. I said that back in April, and it has potential to be that, even though it's been very well promoted. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. It's a sci-fi film from STX Entertainment, opening 3,553 theaters. Apparently has a $209 million budget. Oh my God. I'm looking at, I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm looking at two cats on top of somebody. That's creepy. As he walks, that's creepy. Anyway, $209 million budget for this movie, which in my opinion, folks, okay, you're putting way too much pressure on a movie with, again, when you have when you have a cast that none of them are reliable draws, and given the competition and given the time, to me, that's putting too much pressure on a movie to give it a budget like that. But anyway, $209 million budget, PG-13, directed, written, and produced by Luc Besson. I know from the Taken movies and such. One of the directors on the Taken, one of the people involved with the Taken movies. Cara Delevingne, Dane DeHaan, Clive Owen, Rihanna, Ethan Hawke, all star in this movie. It's been everywhere. They've been working overtime trying to promote this movie. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. I mean, obviously, it's based on existing properties. I was wrong about Luc Besson, by the way. I thought he was involved with the Taken movies. He wasn't. He wasn't. His big thing is Lucy, The Fifth Element. The Family. That's about it. So I was wrong about that. I apologize. I'm going to correct myself there. But again, this is not a movie that I think is going to do very well. I really don't see it. Now, that's not to say it won't factor into things. I could see it maybe making 15, 16, 17 million, but that might be the high ceiling. I know it's in a lot of theaters, and they're kind of selling it they're trying to sell it like Avatar, as in it's this big experience, like revolutionary experience in filmmaking. I just don't, no big names in the cast. I mean, I know Avatar didn't have too many big names in the cast, but I don't know, man. I don't think you have enough behind it to get people interested, but like I said, if it breaks 20 million, that's better than I would have anticipated. I don't see it though. The third biggest movie, Girls Trip, a comedy from Universal, opening in 2,591 theaters, R-rated, $19 million budget, which is again, which that's not too bad. Jada Pinkett Smith, Queen Latifah, Regina Hall, all star in this movie. Maybe 12, 13 million. That's about all I can see. Maybe a little more than that, but that's about all I can see. So Dunkirk's going to win the weekend. Again, I'm thinking 50-55. Could be higher than that. Could be as high as 80 probably. That's not in question. The question is what it does, how well it does. We'll see. Second place, I think, will go to War of the Planet of the Apes. Maybe around 26, 27, 28 million. I think it'll be very close between that and Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man will put around 20, maybe a little more than that. But I think Planet of the Apes will probably do well enough to exceed it and get in the second, probably around, again, 25, 26, 27 million there. Spider-Man around 20, 21, maybe 22. Despicable Me will probably, then after that, you'll probably have Valerian in that fourth slot there, probably again around 16, 17 million, maybe as high as 20. I don't think it has enough to beat Spider-Man. And then I would say you'll probably see Girls Trip around 13, 14, Despicable Me around 10. Makes sense. And I think after that, I think that'll be about, Baby Driver will probably be around 6, 7 million. Big Stick will probably drop below 5 because now it's expanded. I would think most people that wanted to see it probably have. So it'll be under 5. Wonder Woman might be good enough to stay above 5. So I would say Baby Driver around 6, 6.5 million. Wonder Woman around 5, maybe 5.5. And that'll be about it. That'll be all the movies over 5 million. That'll be about all the movies I could see making 5 million or above. So yeah, that's how I see it. So I do think Dunkirk will win the weekend, and I think you'll see War of the Planet of the Apes, Spider-Man, Valerian, Girl Trip, Despicable Me, Baby Driver, and then Wonder Woman. That's how I see it going. So I think overall end up being a fairly decent weekend at the box office. But again, it'll probably be seen just like it was last weekend, where it was a good week, but it's a week that people look at and go, oh, yeah, we could have seen that kind of week in February or in April or, well, not even April, February or, or in November when kids are still in school or something, that kind of thing. People be looking at it like that. So, all right, so that's this weekend. Next week, we'll preview Atomic Blonde and Emoji Movie. Those will be the two big releases next week. I don't know how those are going to factor into things. I'm not expecting big numbers from either one of those films, but we'll see. Also, you have an Inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, at the second Al Gore climate change documentary will start its release. It'll only be in 4 theaters next week, but it'll expand over the next few weeks. So that'll be a factor starting next week as well. So we'll talk more about all that, though, next week. But yeah, that's the box office beat for this week. Okay, so again, that's all we're going to do in entertainment. D23, Comic-Con, we'll leave all that for next week. Now, and TV highlights as well, we'll bring back next week as well. Now we jump into the world of sports. And it's been, before we get to what's going on the field, it's been a very interesting week as far as trades go. You get beyond the All-Star break, and all of a sudden things getting active. And I said, look, I thought it was going to be a much more active trade deadline than it's been over the last couple of years. It's been disappointing, especially with the second wild card over the last couple of years, because you thought it would mean that more people would make trades, but it's been the opposite, where a lot of teams misguidedly think that. Mistakenly think that they're still truly in it, even though they're way out of it, and they don't trade their trade guys that really they could get some pieces for to rebuild for the next year. So, but yeah, that it's done the opposite of what we all thought it would do. So far this year, things have picked up quite a lot. You had JD Martinez being traded to Arizona, which is a big deal. Another bat in their lineup. Arizona going for it, which they should. They've shocked everybody, and they've been fantastic. So they're going for it. The Yankees making the big trade the other night were on the heels of where it looked like the Red Sox were going to make a deal for these same players. The Yankees jump in and move a prospect that was really blocked. I know a lot of people are upset about the Yankees moving a prospect, but the guy was blocked. He wasn't going to play. Okay, he wasn't going to play on the Yankees. It wasn't. When you're going to trade prospects, you trade prospects that are blocked. That's what the Yankees did. They go get Dave Robertson back, Tommy Kahnle, who was in their system. They get him, who's again the guy that probably cost him the high-end prospect because he's coming to his own over the last year. And you get Todd Frazier, who will take third base while Chase Henry moves to first. A good deal for the Yankees. Again, they're trying to go all in. They've been struggling. They're trying to get this thing righted, and they're going all in. They see an opportunity. They're right there. It ain't like last year. They're right there, so they're going all in. A couple trades today. Mariners got David Faust from the Marlins. Twins are close to a trade for left-hander Garcia there. So things are happening now. None of these moves to me that have happened so far. And also you had the Red Sox cutting Pablo Sandoval. He apparently is going to go back to the Giants, which he never should have left. He just never looked comfortable outside the San Francisco Giants. He just never did. You had a couple other moves. Nash just went out and got Sean Doolittle and Ryan Matson. So far it hasn't gone particularly well, but but anyway, so far none of these deals, okay. And the reason why I'm kind of glossing over all of them, okay, not really going in depth on any of them, is because in all honesty, none of them, in my mind, except for JD Martinez to Arizona, really do a lot. Yes, the Yankees get a couple extra bullpen hands, and it does extend. But we already knew their bullpen was already supposed to be this good. Okay, all right. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be as deep, and now it's going to be even deeper. All right, that's great. But that again, the starting pitching, still an issue. The first base, third base situation. Frazier improves that a little bit, but not a lot. And if they're not going to hit, which they're not hitting very well right now, at least not consistently, it ain't going to make much difference. Okay. To me, the deal with the White Sox didn't really change much. So far, none of these deals. Again, maybe the Arizona deal with JD Martinez plays bigger. It ends up being a big deal. Okay. Other than that, though, the Cubs and Quintana might play big. That might be a big one. That's probably the most earth-shattering one because they needed the starting pitcher. Quintana's going to help him. He's going to play. Quintana's going to be better in the National League than he was in the American League anyway. To me, he reminds me a lot of Ivan Nova for the Yankees. Ivan Nova had some good moments for the Yankees and some bad moments. But he's a guy that I always figured if he got traded to the National League was going to excel. And he has. Quintana's another guy. Quintana's probably been a little bit better than Ivan Nova has at this point in his career. Definitely done giving you more innings. But to be honest, he's, like I say, he's been better than Ivan Nova. But I always thought he'd be good in the National League too. Once he got there, and he so far he is. The National League is not necessarily always known as an offensive league. It's more of the pitching defense league. Always has been. So, I expect them, Quintana's going to be great for the Cubs. And he already has proven that. And they needed that. And that was a piece that's going to change them. And the Cubs are starting to take off now after struggling through the first half. So, this piece I expect is going to kind of help them and continue their rejuvenation a little bit. So, the Quintana deal and maybe the JD Martinez to Arizona deal. Those two deals are probably the only ones that I think so far are significant enough to mention as potentially being looked at as game changers, okay? When you look back at this season, if these teams make the playoffs and if they do well, these two moves might, you look back at those two moves and go, okay, that's where things turned a little bit, at least in their favor. Now, look, you're seeing activity. I expect to see more activity. There's not a whole, right now, I think this market, even though it's been active, all right, and Oakland's going to be active. San Diego's going to be active. San Francisco has said they're open for business. So you know those kind of teams are open for business. You know the White Sox are. They've been making moves left and right. The Tigers have moved J.D. Martinez, but signals that they're, even though they're still alive, theoretically, they're close to recognizing that they're probably not going to make it this year. The Royals are closer. But the Royals seem like they're not going to sell off their assets like we might have thought a while ago. I mean, they're 2 games out of the Central. The Central is a mess in the American League. Cleveland hasn't pulled away. You know, the Central is still. I mean, I was shocked when Detroit traded J.D. Martinez because, they're 5 out. And if you look at the wild card standings, you know that it's even more so for them. I mean, Detroit right now, if you look at the wild card standings, Minnesota's a half game out. Mariners are a game and a half out. Royals are 2 out. Angels are 3, believe it or not. Orioles are 3.5. Rangers are 3.5. Toronto is 5. Detroit is 5. And even Oakland, 6. All these teams, I mean, I've always said, and you've all known this if you've been listening or watching over the years, if you're within, especially since the second wild card, at least I've said this, if you're within 8 before the All-Star break, you're still alive, because if you're in the wild card hunt, that means you've been inconsistent. Okay, so it's very rare to see what you're seeing in the National League, where you got teams so dominant that the wild card might not even be in contention come September 1st. Most of the time, we've seen with these wild cards over the last couple of years that it's a crapshoot, and you've got about 8 or 9 teams involved, and then as August goes on, and as you get into early September, it might peter out. But if you're within 8 before the All-Star break, I think you're still alive. Okay? Once you hit the All-Star break, once you get past the All-Star break, the further you get into July, before the trade deadline, if you're within 5, you're still alive. And I would actually carry that further into August. If you're within 5 games in August, I think you're still good too. But once you hit September 1st, that clock ticks, and 5 games might seem like too much. So you got to be shorter than that come September 1st. Ideally, probably 3 games or less. That's the way I see it. So a lot of these teams are still alive. So if you're Kansas City, of course you look at this going like 2 games out of the division, 2 games out. Of course you're not selling off your assets. And that's why you're probably not going to see too many of these teams do this. People have been saying, well, why isn't Toronto having a fire sale? Well, they're 5 games out, a wild card, and they're still relatively in the East. And they just beat the Red Sox again tonight. And we know Toronto has it in them to pull out a run. Why is Detroit giving up more than just J.D. Martinez? Well, they're 5 out, and they're still in the division. Now, Oakland's looking at selling off. You can tell that they're doing their diligence. They're looking like they're preparing for a fire sale. But even Oakland's only 6 out. So, this if you're really looking at these next, right now it's the 20th. You got 11 days here. These next 5 to 6 days are going to be for teams like the Royals, which I don't think are going to do anything, but I put them in that class because people have been looking at them. They have a lot of assets that are going to be free agents. They might be looking to trade. The Royals, the Jays, even the Tigers, who I know they've sold off one big player already, but they're kind of teetering on the edge here. And even the A's. And that's in the American League. National League. The Pirates. I don't think the Cardinals are going to do anything because they just think it's a bad year. The Padres and the Giants are already open for business. The Phillies are open for business. The Reds are open for business. The Mets are open for business. Anybody. I mean, these teams are all like 11, 12 out, whatever. So they're all open for business right now. But the only teams that are kind of still hanging on by a thread that could potentially have fire sale, really the only team in the NL right now that could do that's the Pirates. And they're 7.5 out. But I think they're still thinking they can make a run here. But I think in these next 5 or 6 days, if they don't make some inroads here, that they'll probably make a commitment to selling off some things. So some players, I should say. So, but that's really the only team in the NL, I think, outside of the teams that we know already have committed to potentially selling off assets. Miami, the Mets, the Padres, the Reds, the Giants, the Phillies. Those teams are already pretty much committed to selling off assets, trades, making trades. The Pirates are the only other team I can see doing anything and committing to a fire sale. The American League has far more teams that could potentially do that. The White Sox have already been doing it. The A's, the Tigers, the Jays, and the Royals would all be those candidates. And the other teams I don't see doing anything. But I don't think the Royals do anything no matter what happens over the next week. Toronto, I don't know. If Toronto continues to be this close, I don't think they will. Tigers, I think, might, even though they're close, because they just might think, you know what, we've been in a haze the last couple years. Maybe it's time to just commit to a rebuild. So they might be willing to do it, even no matter how close they are. But in the A's, I think will do it. I think they're already showing signs of doing it. I just think they've been doing their diligence. So, we'll see over these next 5 or 6 days who else jumps into the fray and starts moving pieces. There's a lot of more candidates this year to move pieces than I think you might have seen over the last 2 years. And I see more realist teams looking at things realistically, as opposed to thinking, well, I'm 6-7 out, I can make a run at this. They're looking at this as, well, and some of these teams are repeat offenders when it comes to, they've had that same mentality the last 2 years, where they looked at this and gone, oh, I'm only 6 games out of the second wild card. Maybe we can make a run. Let's not make any deals. Well, I think Detroit's done that a lot over the last couple of years, and it seems like they've realized, well, that's all we're going to ever be. We might as well commit to making ourselves better than just potentially being the second wild card, and committing to making moves and trying to build their future and that kind of thing. So I do think you'll see more activity, because I think more teams are being realistic this year and realizing, taking a hard look at what the NFL teams do at the trade deadline, which is they look at, even if they're kind of still around and maybe they can make a run, they look at this and go, you know what? I'm not waiting around. I'm not waiting around for something that might not happen. Let's do what we can to make ourselves a better team for next year, so that we're not looking at just the second wild card. We're looking at a better position, so we don't have to worry about making a run, that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see how it should get interesting over the next 5 or 6 days, and some of these teams make a decision on what they're going to do. And I mentioned already the way some of these races look. From the wild card standpoint, the American League is going to be a historic wild card race. Like I said, you got Tampa as the first wild card, because the Yankees have just fallen off. Yankees is the second. Twins a half game back of them. Mariners a game and a half out. Royals 2 out. Angels 3 out. Orioles and Rangers 3.5 out. And they're playing each other right now, so there'll be some distance there. Blue Jays are 5 out, as are the Tigers, and then you got the A's at 6 out. So that's going to be interesting. National League, Arizona and Colorado have been so dominant that they got some distance here. The only team that could potentially catch them, I think, is the Cubs, and the Cubs might win the division. So I don't know if you have to worry about that. Diamondbacks and Rockies are tied for the first wild card. Cubs 5, and of course, whoever knows the first will get the second. Cubs are 5.5 back, and you got the Pirates at 7.5 back, and the Pirates are 1 bad run away from being completely out. Everybody else is 9 or more back. So to me, the wild card race is over. And I think the Cubs are going to catch the Brewers. The Cubs are on a run right now. They've won 6 in a row. I think the Cubs are going to catch the Brewers, and I think the Brewers are going to end up knocked out of things. I think the Brewers have a good enough offense. I don't think they have enough pitching. So I think the Brewers are going to fall out. I think the Cubs will go in, and I think the wild card will end up being the 2 West teams, Diamondbacks and the Rockies, because they're so, they've come back. Both those teams have kind of come back down to earth a little bit, and they're still far and away better than anybody else has been in that race. So I think the Diamondbacks and the Rockies run up the wild cards. The Cubs win the Central, and that's how all that will play out. We've talked about the wild card standings, the league standings right now. The AL East again is now. I know I mentioned Toronto's still around the wild card. Though Toronto's not around the division; they're 9 out. But the way that the AL East is played, that might not even mean you're out of it. Same thing with the Orioles; they're 7.5 out. That might not mean you're out of it. You might be one good week away from putting yourself back in it. But otherwise, you got Boston on the top, Tampa 2.5 out, and the Yankees 4 out. That's the way it looks right now, and the way Tampa's playing right now, I can't see a scenario where Tampa doesn't make it, to be honest. If they keep this up, I think Tampa's going to make it. The Central, Cleveland and on top, Twins a half game out, Royals 2 out, Tigers 5 out. White Sox 9.5 out. That's not going to get done, but that division's still up for grabs. Cleveland hasn't pulled away. And the West is pretty much over. Houston, I don't care how many injuries they have with Keiko and Correa, and Houston's gone. 15.5. Seattle's 15.5 back. Angels 17. Rangers 17.5. Oakland 20. Astros are gone. They're going to be the #1 seed. They're going to win the West. I mean, the Astros don't have anything to worry about right now. So, they've been a better road team than home team, which is odd. But anyway, so right now, as I said, I think the trade market will get interesting over the next 5 or 6 days. We've seen some of these teams that needed, that have been struggling to make moves, like the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. Now we've seen some of these teams that have been struggling get hot, like the Cubs. So it should get interesting over these next few weeks. Now the Yankees need to run in the worst way. Of all these playoff teams right now, potential playoff teams right now, the teams I think need to make a run, that need to make a very big run right now. This is just for their psyche, okay? As the Yankees, the Rockies, and the Brewers. Those teams need to make runs. Bad, okay? Bad. Because they've been through they've fallen on such bad times between injuries and everything else that if they don't get out of it soon, get out of their these malaises they're in soon, then I don't think they're going to make it. I already don't think the Brewers are going to make it. So I mentioned the American League division standings. The National League, the Nationals are gone. They're 57-37, 11.5 up on the Braves. So that division is pretty much set. I think the Dodgers are going to run away with the West. They got it up to 11 games now. They're going to run away with it. So those two division races are over. The Central, the Brewers are up a game on the Cubs, 3 on the Pirates. Now you see why the Pirates haven't given. Now you see why the Cardinals haven't got beat. They're 4.5 back. So the Central in both leagues is very much up for grabs. The West in both leagues is not. And the East in one league is pretty much over. In the National League, it's over. And the American League is still very much alive. So, really the races to watch as you go into the August here and the stretch run are the American League East, the American League and National League Central, the American League Wild Card are the races that you want to look at. And they're going to all be good. They're going to be all good. And who knows, maybe over the next week or so, somebody makes a move that changes the game. We already, like I said, I've seen only 2 moves: the Quintana to the Cubs and the JD Martinez to Arizona. Those are only 2 moves I think that are huge that could be looked at as game changers in a way. We'll see if anybody else does something that really shakes things up. We'll see. And as you look at the calendar and you look at tonight, Baltimore's playing Texas, Kansas City's playing Detroit, Pittsburgh's playing Milwaukee, Toronto played Boston, Arizona beat Cincinnati bad. The Yankees are playing Seattle. These are all significant games in terms of the playoff hunts. These are teams you can put some distance, move yourself up here, get some runs going. Very important. Some very important games out there tonight, and some very important games over the next week or so too. So to make these races even more interesting. So I know I kind of glossed over a lot there. I glossed over some of the trades that have happened. I glossed kind of over the standings, what's been going on. Due to time, I didn't want to go into too much detail, but I think I just wanted to cover things in a general fashion, and I think I did. So, and kind of just, because we talked a lot about the All-Star. We talked a lot about the All-Star break and the home run derby and such last week. We didn't really talk much about on the field and on the field stuff and how the standings were. And I kind of wanted to kind of ease you all, in case you haven't been paying, ease you all into it before we start going into detail and focusing on it every week. And that's kind of what I did here. So, and as we go forward, we'll go into more detail and talk more about the team specifically and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what my goal was with this. And I think hopefully I did that. So another sports thing to talk about here. I said I want to talk baseball, talk about some of the trades that have gone down, the standings and all that stuff. Another thing that in sports I wanted to cover, and again, Open Championship that we're not going to cover. There's not enough going on. There's been a bad year for the PGA, and really nobody's first year really, and nobody's really asked me to talk about anything from the PGA. So that goes to show you what kind of year they're having. But yeah, so we're going to jump. Not going to do anything with the golf. There's nothing else to do, really, that anybody wants us to do anyway, outside of baseball. But this story. And that is from the NBA, what's going on with LeBron James. Now, in case you haven't been following, LeBron James apparently and the Cavs are having issues. There's probably some frustration over the fact they haven't been able to do much with the team this year. They, obviously they've been involved with several things. They've tried to get players. They've tried to, obviously Golden State's done some things. They signed Andre Iguodala. They've done a few things. Houston's done what Houston got Chris Paul, and there have been moves that Cleveland's wanted to make. They didn't want Paul George was the big one that everybody thought was going to happen. It didn't. They've been trying to get Carmelo Anthony, but really the only way they can get Carmelo Anthony is through a buyout. It's really the only way they're going to do it. There's just no way it's going to be moved. They don't have the cap space. They got to get a buyout. They have to get Carmelo Anthony to sign for a very small price. But and the problem with the trade market for them was that everybody was asking for Kevin Love, and they really didn't want to move Kevin Love, and they couldn't get a third team involved. There was a lot of things. Basically, Cleveland hasn't made any moves. LeBron's getting frustrated. James Jones retired. His best friend, one of his best friends. James Jones is now with the Suns as a front office executive, which people think, maybe that means LeBron go to the Suns. LeBron ain't going to the Suns. Now it's going to be a jinx. He's been with LeBron for the 7 finals, and maybe now LeBron will make the finals. They don't have his good luck time. Folks, Cleveland can make the finals, providing they all stay healthy with the team they have. Okay? And that's the thing that I don't understand about the frustration from LeBron. I understand you want to make the team better, you want to compete with Golden State, but let's be honest here. Okay, with the way the East is now, and I know the Celtics got better with Gordon Hayward. That was a big deal and everything. I understand that. But they're still better than Boston with Gordon Hayward. They're still better. Okay? They're still better. Far and away. Cleveland, as long as they all stay healthy, will make the finals this year. Problem is, you don't have what it takes to be Golden State right now. That's the problem. And that's probably what the frustration is for LeBron James. Now, look, you have enough here to, again, get to the finals. Even if you don't make a move in the offseason, you can always make a move at the trade deadline when teams are more desperate. So it's not the end-all, the be-all if you don't do something now. That's the thing. So I don't get being upset right now and being frustrated right now to the point where people are already speculating that he's going to leave Cleveland next summer. Oh, the Lakers are already preparing. They're doing everything they can to make the Lakers look better for – Look, there was rumors about LeBron. There's always going to be rumors about LeBron, but there were rumors about LeBron a couple months ago. He's going to be a free agent next year. Irving and Love are likely going to leave when their contracts are up the year after. This team, I think Cleveland knows, and I think the front office, I think they all know that the window is closing here. It ain't closing on Golden State. It's closing on Cleveland. They know that. They know that. So this ain't, saying that this is some kind of shocking development and LeBron's all of a sudden getting frustrated. No. If LeBron leaves, is that because he's not frustrated? Is that because he's frustrated with Cleveland? First of all, Cleveland's winning. Cleveland's getting to the finals. That team is a championship team. It's just not as good as Golden State. They play anybody else but Golden State, they're probably winning the NBA Finals. We know that. There's still time to make this team better. This could still happen even during the season. So all is not lost here. So to make it sound like all of a sudden, oh, LeBron doesn't like the way the summer's going, and now he's thinking about leaving. LeBron was probably already thinking about leaving. Regardless of what happened this summer, regardless of what happened next season, he's probably already thinking about leaving. Because he knows the window in Cleveland is closing. He knows that. It doesn't matter. Even if you went out there and you got Carmelo Anthony, he knows the window is closing. It might, I mean, maybe it gets him to stay, maybe. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it does. Depends on how the circumstances are. But, okay, they go get Carmelo Anthony, LeBron decides to stay, but then Irving and Love turn around and leave. If Irving and Love are gone, it's just you and Anthony, you're worse than you were now. You're worse than you are now. So it doesn't really make much difference. So, really, this is not some development. The speculation was already running rampant. We already suspected that he was thinking about making a move. Doesn't mean he's going to. We already suspected he was. That next summer he might, just go look at his options. We already knew that. It has nothing to do with this summer. Is it making it easier for him to maybe leave? Maybe, but a lot can happen in the season. And like I said, who knows? Maybe they get Carmelo Anthony at the deadline. But again, getting Carmelo doesn't do anything. Doesn't change anything in my mind. He gets Carmelo. He's like, well, okay, we got Carmelo, but, Kevin and Kyrie might still be leaving next year. Are we going to re-up one of them? Because if we don't re-up one of them, we're going to be worse off than we were before with just me, Love, and Irving. Who's to say that they can do that? And who's to say that Love and Irving are going to want to take a discount to stay? Because they're going to have to, based on the contract that LeBron's going to want a big contract this time around, too. That's the other part of it. LeBron's going to want a big deal. It's probably going to be the last contract he gets. And they all can't get big contracts. Irving's going into his prime. Love is maybe saying, hey, I might only have one more contract. I've had a lot of injuries. Carmelo's going to require a lot of money. So, they're not going to be able to keep them all. Like I said, if you get Carmelo Anthony, they're going to have to do some maneuvering here. And somebody's going to have to take less money. And they're not always all going to want to take less money. They're all not going to take less money here, guys and girls. They're not. This isn't easy peasy here. This ain't, Golden State got lucky here. All these guys are, Durant's willing to take the discount. A lot of these guys are still on their early contracts and stuff. That's a little bit different. The guys in Cleveland aren't going to do that. LeBron's going to want a bigger deal. He's taking smaller deals. Carmelo's going to require a lot of money. Irving and Love might be looking at his last contract. He's going to want a lot of money. Irving's going to want a lot of big money because look what he's done. He's going into his prime here. He's going to want the big money. These guys ain't going to give you discounts. You can't keep them all. So LeBron's going to go there and go, hey, I know we can't keep them all. I know what the situation is. I know our window's closing. Why should I stay? Convince me how we're going to figure this out so I can stay. And they lose Irving, and if they say, hey, we're going to lose Irving, well, but we're going to keep Carmelo and you. Well, he's going to say, well, wait a minute. Now I'm worse off than we were before when we had me, Love, and Irving. We didn't have Carmelo because all I got is me and Carmelo. They ain't going to do any good. You need more than that. So again, this circumstance isn't anything different. Again, it probably just makes it easier for LeBron to go, hey, you know what? The way things are going, it's going to be easy for me to turn my back on this team. Because it's not going anywhere. Our window is closing, and I'm not going to waste my time. That's where they're at right now. And this is where they've probably been at since the winter. I mean, we first started hearing about this over the winter. We heard, actually, I first started hearing about it last summer. That, hey, just put it out here. You've heard rumblings. It was reported in media last year during the draft. It was reported last year that there was rumblings that LeBron, in 2018, might leave the Cavaliers because Love and Irving will probably leave, and he ain't gonna want to stay if he knows that inevitability might happen. So, acting like because of this summer and the way things have gone, and all of a sudden now LeBron's starting to question the Cavaliers. No. And I don't even know if he's really questioning them. He's just frustrated because he thought they could put something together this summer and make one last run this year before he has to make a decision. I think he was hoping it'd make it difficult for him. Like, oh, yeah, we just put together. We got Carmelo. We got Paul George. We've been going for it this year. They win another championship. And like, oh, wow. LeBron might say, hey, you know what? Maybe I sign a one-year deal and have we have one more run together before Irving and Love take off. Maybe it gets him to commit to one more year if things go well. Maybe he might have been hoping for that, and then nothing materializes this summer and he gets frustrated. Maybe that's what's going on. Yeah, it's probably what's going on. But the seeds were planted before this summer. They didn't just come out this summer. They didn't just start this summer. They didn't just start after they lost out on Paul George and will likely lose out at least this summer on Carmelo Anthony. They didn't start this summer. The seeds have been there longer than this summer. And acting like they weren't is absurd to me. This is going to be a saga that's going to play out throughout this season. And it's going to be a dark cloud hanging over the Cleveland Cavaliers all season long. And if they don't do anything significant between now and the trade deadline this season, it's going to be a hell of a distraction from February on. Because the media, with every struggle the Cavs have, losing streak, or if things don't go as well in the playoffs, maybe they have a harder time than you expect. And even when they get to the finals, which I think if they all stay healthy is inevitable, even with the team that they have as it stands. Okay? They get to the finals, they see Golden State again, which is very likely. And they lose game 1 or they lose game 2, whatever the heck it is, and they're down in the series, whatever. They're having struggles, okay? Every time things go bad for this team, the media is going to hound LeBron and Irving and Love. They're going to hound them all. And they're going to ask, well, what do you think of the team? Do you think you can do it with this team? Oh, well, they're going to look for you. They're going to look to open the floodgates and look for LeBron. Just come out and say, hey, well, we need help. We need this. We need that. They're going to look for holes. They're going to look for that controversial comment that opens the floodgates and gets things rolling in a direction that ends up being a negative for the team. Because LeBron hasn't always said the right things in the past. Cleveland has a tendency for a lot of all of the Cavaliers have a tendency to say things to the media that sometimes are not too smart. Where things that should be kept in-house end up being hinted at or mentioned in comments to the press. So the media will be hounding them all, looking for a comment like, well, are you upset with the way Cleveland's handled things? And maybe they could have given you more help, and maybe you could have had a better bench, and maybe you could have had this, and you could have Carmelo Anthony, and it would have been easier, and all this other stuff. It's gonna be a distraction, and it's gonna become a bigger and bigger deal all season long until the season ends, and then free agency starts, and then it becomes a freaking circus again. And that's all you're gonna hear if Cleveland doesn't do anything to improve this team, or doesn't do anything to kind of stem the tide a little bit, or when things don't go right, or whatever. Because that's what happens. We've been in these situations before. That's what happens. So if you're the Cavs, look, you got to do something. And I think if you're the Cavs, everybody has to be brought together here, and you all have to commit to the idea that no matter what happens this season, no matter what happens in the playoffs and the finals, we're not gonna pick at each other. We're not gonna say things in the press. We're not gonna point fingers if things go wrong. We're not gonna do any of that. Let's keep all this off. Let's just focus on the task at hand. Let's just focus on playing the game. Let's just focus on trying to go out there and win a championship. Let's keep all the noise out. Because if you do that and you nip that in the bud and you all commit to that and say that's the way we're going to handle this season because we know what the end of the season could bring, it ends up being a circus. Will LeBron leave? Will he not? The next year with Irving and Love, if you commit to keeping that stuff out of it and leaving that for the off season and dealing with it then, it'll help. But if you don't and you let it just kind of fester along and as things get tight and you start struggling as a team and all this other stuff, it's going to end up blowing up because these guys, you've seen it before. LeBron's done it. They've all done it. Sometimes they'll make comments and it opens the floodgates and it causes a distraction and it makes an already volatile situation worse. So hopefully they nip that in the bud early. If they don't, then I think it can get out of hand. Because the setup is all there for that. And we're already starting to see the setup. The media is already grasping on, LeBron's all frustrated with the Cavs. There's trouble in paradise. There was already trouble in paradise. Even if he wasn't frustrated, there was trouble in paradise. The idea was that he could leave after the season. Everybody knew that going in. This isn't some new development. People need to stop reporting it like it is. He was always going to look at his options next summer, no matter what happened. Again, the idea, I think in his mind, the idea was, let's see if Cleveland can make this a difficult decision for me. Let's see if we can go out there, put together a good roster, go out there, have an awesome year, win a championship, and then I have to really think twice about whether I want to leave or not, or maybe stay an extra year or whatever. He wants the decision to be difficult. He wants it to be a good year. And that's probably where the frustration is this summer. Like, hey, you know what? Nothing's really getting done here. What are we doing? Where are we going? But the idea of and the potential of him leaving is not new. It was there a year ago. It didn't just come out this summer. It didn't just start this summer. It was there a year ago. So acting like it's something that stems from anything this summer is asinine. It's not true. It was always out there. The media was all over it. There were articles last summer about it. It's been out there. So this is a story that's been kind of building and building. And now, as we're a year out from when he can maybe go look for another team, it's starting to build up. And the tension's boiling. And the Cavs aren't doing anything, which adds to it. The drama, it's getting more and more compelling. And again, it's going to play out all season. It's going to be a dark cloud over the Cavaliers. It's going to play out all season. It's going to be an ongoing saga, and it's going to absolutely explode next summer as we see where LeBron ends up. That's what's going to happen. So it's a story that's not going to go away. It's a story that we're going to be talking about. It's a story that we're going to be dealing with. So here we are, another LeBron James saga, whether you like it or not. So we'll see how it goes. Should be interesting. All right, so that's all the sports stuff I wanted to talk about. That you all really wanted us to talk about. Now we jump to wrestling. That'll be the last thing that we do tonight. Really quickly, just give some thoughts. I want to give some thoughts on Raw and SmackDown before we get into Battleground. I really don't have much thoughts on SmackDown Tuesday. I thought it wasn't great. I haven't thought SmackDown's been great for the last couple of weeks. It's been, it's been very uneventful, mostly set up. A lot of these, they're not really doing anything new. The Fashion File stuff has been okay. The opener, Orton and Jinder have been feuding for so long. See, here's the thing. I like the longer feuds. I think longer feuds can be interesting. Okay. And they can do a lot for guys. Look what's happening with Reigns and Strowman, okay? But if there's nothing compelling to them, They can be horrible. And that's what's going on with Orton and Jinder. That's not a good feud. There's nothing there. You know what I mean? Jericho and Owens, there was something, and it wasn't even that long of a feud, but there was something because you built it over around time. Reigns and Strowman, it's something. It's a blood feud. It works. You know, like you look at Ambrose and Miz. Again, it's boring because it's nothing. I mean, they've tried a little bit more with it, but there's nothing there. Same thing with Jinder and Randy. There's nothing there. If you're going to have these two involved again in a tournament, you better have been doing a multi-guy match. You know, I mean, it's just boring. It's just boring. So SmackDown. I mean, really, outside of Styles and Owens, which has been the best feud of the bunch, they don't have anything going on. I mean, the Zayn Mike Kanellis stuff is somewhat interesting and entertaining, but other than that, I mean, SmackDown right now has been thriving off of Owens and Styles. And even that right now is kind of lost a lot of its energy because, look, I mean, to be honest, it seems like Owens is hurt. I mean, it's all he's doing is tag matches. He drops the title at MSG the same week as his DVD comes out, which really makes no sense. So that right there seems like it's an injury thing. Now you get this rematch at Battleground, which, you think probably Owens isn't going to win. So really, all the air in that feud is kind of gone too. So I mean, really, that's why I think this Battleground pay-per-view is going to be awful, and I think nobody really cares too much about it. It's not like Great Balls of Fire, which they did a great job with the build-up, but ended up being a good card. It felt big. Great Balls of Fire actually felt like a big pay-per-view. Raw got it right this month. They did a good job. SmackDown, SmackDown's kind of in a rut here. Some of these feuds need to be burned off. They need a new energy. They need a fresh energy. They need to get moving. Because right now they're not doing so hot. So I mean, SmackDown was. I didn't think SmackDown was good at all Tuesday. At all. I mean, it had some good matches, but I can't even think of many. And I mean, again, some good matches, but really highlight wise, it wasn't a lot. Raw Monday. Now I know people are going to say it was predictable. We all suspected Strowman was going to interfere in the main event. He did. I thought it was the right move. I thought the brawl was good. I loved the real moments of Strowman and Joe that we got. I thought they were phenomenal. Reigns Joe was a good match until that point. I think they're booking it really well. I think if it's a fatal four-way, I think it's the right move. I think it's going to be a good match. It's going to be a really big draw. See those guys, no pun intended, it's a mammoth match. Those guys together, it's going to be a great selling point for the pay-per-view. I thought they did some great stuff with the women's division. They built it up. They're clearly going in a different direction than what we thought. At first, we all thought it was going to be a Nia Alexa match, and then you heard rumors about a fatal four-way. Now it looks like they're going in a different direction. It's going to be Bayley or Sasha versus Alexa. We'll see how that goes. And I mean, but there's some good developments there. The Ambrose Miz stuff. I mean, they set it up. I wish it was. I mean, I like the addition of Rollins. And look, that Seth Rollins Ambrose segment that started Raw Monday was very good. And it's long overdue for Seth Rollins to have done that. They've addressed a lot of things with Rollins. They dealt with the authority stuff, why he behaved the way he behaved, why he did what he did. The last thing that they hadn't really addressed, I mean, even though him and Roman have worked together on that, and I think, look, Roman and him kind of, the way they played it was, well, they had a common enemy, so they just kind of worked together. But still hanging over his head was what he did to the Shield. And not acknowledging and not apologizing for it, acknowledging it as a mistake. And having him do that on Monday night was huge. And I think it's going to do a lot for his character going forward. And they've done, kind of moving Seth down the card, a little bit and focusing less on him has helped him. He's getting his character a little bit. Things are getting a little bit better for him. And now I think they're finally going in the right direction character-wise with Seth Rollins. And that was an effective segment. And look, putting Rollins into this Miz thing and the Miz to Rollins, and it's helped this feud a little bit. But it does need to end. If you want to transition to Rollins versus Miz, great. But we got to get Ambrose out of it after this match with Rollins, which clearly they're setting up a multiple guy match with the Miz to Rollins and Ambrose and Rollins here for SummerSlam. Clearly, that's where they're going. I think that's clear. But and I think that's fine, but really after that, Ambrose has to be away from Miz because it's been going on since January. Just like I think Strowman has to be away from Reigns. Again, since January. I mean, it's been a great feud, but come on. And then, of course, you had the further development of Big Show and Big Cass, which, we all have known for a while was coming, and there it is. Enzo had a great promo again. What's kind of blurred the lines of reality and script, but it was still good. And you got the Kurt Angle thing, which kind of went over like a lead balloon. Look, this is what WWE gets for building something up to the point. I wish, and maybe, and I'm going to take a different approach because I know everybody's bashed the hell out of it, but they've also acknowledged too it could be very good for Jason Jordan, and it could. And you feel bad about American Alpha and Chad Gable. They never really got a chance. They broke them up, and they did it in a horrible way. But whatever, it is what it is. We all kind of saw it coming, I think, over the last couple months. But this is a good opportunity for Jason Jordan. They can also end up, him and Kurt Angle can end up being great villains if they set it up the right way. So there's potential here. But the problem with WWE with this was this. You built this up like it was some earth-shattering thing. There was speculation. I mean, everybody assumed it was going to be either like Triple H and him at SummerSlam, Stephanie McMahon being involved, maybe Dixie Carter. First of all, with this angle, it's always either going to be really, really dumb or really just a waste of everybody's time. So whenever you do these kind of angles, it's always one or the other. So, that's why these angles are kind of rough to do. Having said that, who knows what the intent was here? To me, the way they were building it up, I do think it was supposed to set up a match with Triple H, and maybe they got cold feet. Maybe they, they asked Kurt how he was feeling, or they saw some medical. They evaluated Kurt and said, we just don't want to do a match with you, Kurt. We're calling it off. I mean, to me, the way that they built this up had to be built into something bigger than just, hey, Jason Jordan's my son. It's all done. That's it. It had to be setting something up. The way that they were building it and how long it went on and all that. To me, it had to be. So, to me, maybe I give them a little bit more of a pass than some people are here because they might have had to change plans and then they had to kind of scramble to go to plan B, and this is what they came up with. And it's not a horrible thing. It's just something that's very underwhelming compared to the hype. But again, that's the problem with building it up the way you did. If they were a little bit more mysterious about it, it might have helped. But it is what it is. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Maybe it helps Jason Jordan. I don't know. It was underwhelming. Yeah, it went over like a lead balloon. We all know that. But again, who knows what their original intent was? I tend to think it was something bigger than what it was. Just the way they built it up, that's my feeling. And there were rumors and rumblings for a while that it was going to be, they were setting up Kurt Angle, Triple H with this stuff. And maybe they did, maybe that was the plan, and things changed, and Kurt can't wrestle, and they had to come up and scramble for a new plan, and that's what they got. So who knows? Raw, though, wasn't a bad show, wasn't a great show, but even in that, it was kind of in between, but that's better than what SmackDown was. SmackDown was just a waste to me. So I just want to give my thoughts on both those shows first before we did the Battleground. Now I'm going to go quickly through this because, again, this is a pay-per-view that really, you could tell, just nobody cares about. Okay, nobody's really talking much about it. You don't even see people posting the odds for it that much. Okay, I'm also by myself, so there's no sense in taking forever with it. So I'll do as we always do. I'll do as we always do here. I'll just go down the card, make a couple predictions, discuss the match, and then move on. We aren't going to do questions or comments tonight. And really, with these brand exclusive pay-per-views, we don't do that too often. I mean, sometimes we do, but usually for the big ones, big pay-per-views, we do the whole, we'll address question and comment thing. So, and plus, since we're throwing this in on a show, we had other things to do. For time reasons, we can't really do a whole lot either. So I'll just go over the matches, make predictions, and that'll be all we do with it. So, and then again, next wrestling show we do will be us previewing SummerSlam, which is a big pay-per-view. So we'll do questions. We'll address questions and comments from the fans. And really, this shouldn't be shocking. I didn't ask for any. last time we were on the air. So, and usually if we're going to do questions and comments from fans about wrestling, I usually ask for them ahead, and I didn't. So that should be a clue that we weren't going to do that. But anyway, let's start here. WWE Battleground, a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view, will be taking place this Sunday on the WWE Network at 8 Eastern Time. We'll go over all the matches here, and we'll do what we always do, which is start with the pre-show matches. The pre-show match, which will be, I believe, Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English, which again is just a thrown-together thing, a way to get Dillinger and Aiden English on the card. I've been pleasantly surprised by what they've been doing with Aiden English. I'm glad that they're focusing on him. They're giving him a little bit of a push. Now that his tag partner's gone. Dillinger has nothing to do. They're just kind of doing this. You know, I'm kind of disappointed with how they've been handling Dillinger. He should be doing far more than what he's doing. But it is what it is at this point. Filler match, pre-show match, and really just a way to kind of get a, you know, it's good. And look, Dillinger's going to win the match. You know, not that they never had heels win on the pre-show before. They have. But, oh, look who's joining us.
You are so lucky I'm joining you, by the way. I literally just walked in the door.
You don't have to. I didn't ask you to.
You added me to the call as I was driving.
Okay. First of all, let me explain myself here. I did that out of habit. And quickly after I sent that, I realized, oh, crap, he's not available tonight. So I made a mistake. I apologize for that.
You certainly did.
Okay, well, I apologize.
I imagine you've talked for 2 hours and it's been terrible. So allow everybody to get this pick. I'm assuming Ty Dillinger is winning whatever match he's in.
Aiden English.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Ty Dillinger's winning that.
All right, well, just to be on the subject here. Yeah, and again, it's not that they don't let heels win on the pre-show. They do. But, you know, this is a pretty big face, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of heels winning on the show. So, well, not a lot of heels, but a good amount. So, yeah, Dillinger's going to win here. They always like to try to put a face over in the pre-show if they can. It'll be a quick match. It'll be what it is. Dillinger wins. Hum-ha. We're not going to be worried about taking turns. I'm just going to be throwing matches out here because I want to try to get these done as quick as possible. Next up, we have Sami Zayn versus Mike Kanellis. Of course, Maria Kanellis will be with him. This is a rematch from their match on SmackDown, which wasn't bad. It was, you know. So, Sami Zayn and Mike Kanellis. Mike?
I think Sami Zayn's going to win.
Yeah, I want to say he is, but then I also think too that this is only Mike Kanellis' second match. I can kind of see them playing this out. See, I don't know if they'll put this on the SummerSlam card because I don't think they'll have enough room. SummerSlam's got a lot of matches.
Sami Zayn versus Mike Kanellis is not going to be on the SummerSlam card, but I think Sami's going to get the win here.
I could see a situation. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna pick Sami Zayn. I'm not.
You don't have to.
I'm not going to. I think Maria helps again, and I think Mike Kanellis wins, and it'll be a fun match. If Maria draws heat, it'll be a fun match. But I think what I think will be a very short match, kind of like what they were on SmackDown. I think Mike Kanellis is going to win, not clean, but I think he's going to win. And then they'll probably just build this feud up, and it'll be part of like some kind of multiple guy match at SummerSlam or something.
I don't think Sami Zayn will be a part of a multiple guy match at SummerSlam, but I think you may have a point here, but who knows?
I don't think they're going to end the feud that quick.
I think they're going to end this feud that pretty quickly for now.
All right, so next up we have.
Hurry up, my back's dying.
I'll just skip to this match because it has very low stakes here. Cena and Rusev in a flag match. I'm going to be quick with this match. This is a waste of everybody's time. This is a way to get Cena a win on a pay-per-view after he's come back. I feel bad that they threw Rusev into this. Rusev's been waiting for something, an angle for a long time, and they just threw him out to this, and he's just going to get beaten. I mean, that's all it is. It's if Cena win on the pay-per-view before they move him on to whatever he's moving on to. So, yeah, it'll get time because it's Cena, but Cena's winning this match. Mike?
John Cena's winning. Why are we even talking about it? Move on.
SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The Usos versus the New Day. The Usos, of course, are the champions. Mike, go ahead.
They're going to have the Usos kind of hold on, I think, for another month, just to get them to SummerSlam. I think the New Day will win, but they won't win the titles.
I agree. I think the New Day wins the match. By obviously, there's some kind of incident. It'll be a good match, but at the same time, I do not think they're going to crown the New Day at what I think is a waste of time pay-per-view. So, yeah, they're going to give the New Day their crowning moment at SummerSlam. New Day will win the match like by DQ or something, or count out or something, and we'll get the big crowning again of the New Day at SummerSlam. No doubt about that in my mind. That's an easy match to pick. Next up, we have the artist known as Shinsuke Nakamura versus Mr. Money in the Bank Baron Corbin in a feud that started during the Money in the Bank match last month. This is a match that's interesting to me because really none of these guys should take a loss here. But we all know how Vince likes to book Money in the Bank winners. And we also know how highly they think of Shinsuke Nakamura. So with that end, this will be an interesting match to see these two work together. And I expect they'll give it a lot of time. It'll be an interesting match to see how they work together. But I think Nakamura is winning it. And again, that wouldn't be surprising given how Money in the Bank winners do. Mike?
Real quick, Shinsuke Nakamura is going to beat Baron Corbin, probably by pinfall via the Kinshasa.
Okay. Next up, we have a 5-way elimination match to decide the number one contender for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, winner of this match will face Naomi at SummerSlam. This match is between Tamina Snuka, Natalya, Charlotte Flair, Lana, and Becky Lynch. Mike?
First of all, small favors. Naomi's not on this pay-per-view. Honestly, I can't even tell you who's probably going to win. I think it'll probably be some sort of combination of either Charlotte or Becky. I think it's more than likely going to be Charlotte because Charlotte just took a pinfall loss on SmackDown to Becky, so that'll probably be Becky's moment. I think it's going to be Charlotte.
I think it's going to be Charlotte, too, because here's the thing. We're not really quite sure what Charlotte is at this point. She kind of keeps oscillating between face and heel. I don't think they're going to put Natalya in a spotlight match. I mean, look, these women are going to be on the card at SummerSlam in some form. But in a singles match with Naomi's a face. I don't think they're going to do face versus face with Becky. Lana's already gotten how many opportunities? Natalya, I don't think they're going to put in that match. I don't think they're going to put Tamina. Charlotte's the only one that makes any sense. And they could just make her a heel again and stick her in the match. So I think it's Charlotte. It'll be a fun match. Multi-girl matches haven't been the best in WWE in the last couple of years, but nonetheless, it is what it is. They'll give it time. They might have some good spots, but I think Charlotte's going on to face Naomi. All right, let me get to this match because I know he wants to get to it. U.S. title rematch between the new U.S. champion AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. How about you start this one? Go ahead, Mike.
Well, this one's going to hurt because I don't think Kevin Owens is winning this match.
You're right.
I think if he, before the Garden, I think Kevin Owens was going to win this match before what happened in the Garden.
Right.
After what happened in Madison Square Garden, I am convinced utterly that it's going to be AJ Styles. He's going to retain the U.S. title here. Because I think there might be something, and a lot of people believe this too, I think there might be something wrong with Kevin Owens. He might be injured, and they're going to want to try to protect him try to get him through SummerSlam.
Yeah.
This isn't a spoiler, and this isn't me fanboying. They have big plans for Kevin Owens. Big plans for Kevin Owens coming up. He's penciled into a fairly big match at SummerSlam, allegedly. SummerSlam. WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So they're going to need to start protecting KO. That being said, AJ Styles is going to win here. Owens is not really going to lose anything losing to AJ Styles, because I imagine in a few months he's going to get this win back. So AJ Styles to retain the U.S. title.
Yeah, this to me, this is the I mentioned this earlier. This is the only program on this is the only match on the card I even care about.
Yeah.
It's the only one, and they've had the best feud, and it's the only one that's not like outlasted its usefulness. And even though it's lost a little bit of juice because of the MSG thing, again, I felt like I think it's obvious by now. There's a reason they did that. There's something going on with Kevin Owens. He's always doing his tag matches
and fatal and triple threats.
Yeah, there's something going on there. It's pretty obvious. And look, the day after Money in the Bank last month, it was reported that he was injured. We all got frightened that something serious was wrong. They said, oh, no, he's working, so he's fine. But no, it was never said that he wasn't injured. It was just said that he's working. So, draw your own conclusion from the way things have been handled since then. Yeah, this is going to be a good match. I don't think this would be as long of a match as it would have been a couple weeks ago. Because
No.
I do think, like you said, they're going to protect him. And, there's certain things that maybe there's certain limits here. But, yeah, AJ Styles is going to retain the title. And then we'll see what happens to Owens after this. I don't know. Might depend on what's going on.
He might get a match at SummerSlam. He might not.
It's again, the immediate future is in doubt, but the long term, we kind of have an idea. So, but yeah. Main event, for better or worse, because it's going to be the main event. The Punjabi Prison returns for the WWE Championship match between the champion Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. Look, the gimmick is going to be cool. The return of the Punjabi Prison is cool. I don't expect to see too much. I mean, there's been a lot of blood in WWE recently, but I don't expect to see blood here. I'm not really interested in this because I'm kind of sick of the Orton-Mahal feud. No disrespect to either one of these guys. I'm just sick of it. Again, there's nothing compelling about it at this point. It's just the same old every week. Jinder Mahal is going to retain here. I do think there is a potential here that we see the cash-in. Now, I know this is a filler pay-per-view, and that would be stupid to do it on this, but I could see them wanting, because SmackDown's kind of in a lull right now. I could see them trying to shake things up a little bit and pulling that. Especially since the Punjabi Prison match is supposed to be so grueling, and I could see them pulling that here. I doubt it, but that potential is there. But yeah, Jinder Mahal is going to retain here. Orton will get screwed somehow, and that's the way it'll go. But it'll be cool to see this match again, I guess. Mike?
Randy Orton's going to win. Next, Randy Orton. Jinder Mahal is going to retain 100%, no question about it. I don't think there's going to be a cash-in. Not at all.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I feel like any point's moot, but there's a possibility it could happen at SummerSlam and beyond.
If it doesn't happen here, it's happening at SummerSlam.
Jinder Mahal's title reign is not long for this world, and if you're a fan of Jinder, I'm sorry. I think Jinder's been doing great work as champion.
I agree.
He hasn't been abhorrent as champion, so it's something.
It's not Swagger, that's for sure.
It's definitely, in the end, it's not Jack Swagger. So, but Jinder's going to retain here. That's about it. It's really all you can say. The brothers Singh are going to get involved. Nobody's going to be surprised by that.
Yeah.
So,
look at the bright side. If he makes it through this, he gets to SummerSlam, he'll have about 3.5 to 4 month reign.
And that's all Jinder Mahal could really ask for.
That's terrific. That's actually good. That's not a bad reign.
Oh, it's a very decent reign.
Yeah. So, all right. So I said we'd go through the matches. I thought it was going to be just me, but I said we'd go through the matches quick, and we did. Again, this is not a pay-per-view that a lot of people are looking forward to. It's very uneventful. It's a lot of the same feuds. It's nothing big. It's nothing substantial. It's kind of like a build-up pay-per-view. It's not like Great Balls of Fire was.
Surprisingly.
So, you know, it is what it is, and we'll look forward. It's a lot of it's just going to set up SummerSlam, and then I think SmackDown will have a lot more energy next week because they'll have burned off a lot of this, and we'll see where they go. Raw definitely has more energy right now, but that could change in a week once all this stuff kind of settles. But really quickly, one thing I said, we're not doing questions or comments. We'll bring those back next month when we preview SummerSlam, as I mentioned earlier. One last thing, I said I would bring up the Brock Lesnar rumor, and I will. And again, we'll be talking about this a lot over the next 6 months as we approach WrestleMania, because his contract is up at WrestleMania 34. News was made yesterday when it was reported that Brock Lesnar supposedly might make a return to the UFC this fall. There was some speculation he might even try to fight at MSG in November. You know, he might be back in the testing pool and all this other stuff. First of all, a lot has been said since then, including by Dave Meltzer, including by others as well. First of all, you're hearing from people involved in UFC that Brock Lesnar has not put himself back into the testing pool. So there's that. The other thing too is if he does, his his suspension was frozen when he retired. If he puts himself back into the testing pool, he has 5 months left on his suspension, which means the earliest, if he does it like now, the earliest that he could fight is in December. So he could work the New Year's show. That'd probably be the earliest that he could do. If you listen to most sources, Wrestling Observer, or any other sources out there that are reporting, most of them feel that if he fights, he's going to fight in 2018. Now, if he fights in January, that puts him that means he probably misses the Rumble, and that might put him in danger for WrestleMania, depending on who he fights and if he gets hurt or something. So I don't know if he'd do that. Now, remember, the last time Brock Lesnar's contract was up, this the same kind of thing that happened. We heard him kind of playing the UFC and WWE off each other and seeing what sticks. Now, something that I found out and that nobody's been reporting on but Dave Meltzer is that Brock Lesnar has options left in his contract.
Yeah.
Apparently, there are 2. So assuming that neither party wants to part ways at WrestleMania next year, like let's say Brock says, all right, I'm good, and Vince says, hey, I'm good, that option immediately just goes. Brock has to indicate before Mania that he's done. Otherwise, the option just goes picked up and he's there another year, and then same goes for the following year. So, and from the sound of it, nothing has been said from Brock Lesnar indicating that he intends to leave WWE. He can still fight in the UFC with his WWE contract, providing it's approved by the WWE, which they will prove because they don't want to lose him. So, you know, he doesn't have to leave WWE to fight. Now, with this rumor yesterday, it was like, oh, well, he's dropping the title at SummerSlam because he's going back to UFC, and he's dropping the title to Roman Reigns and, you know, going back to UFC. First of all, I think most of them were quoting the rumor from a month ago that Roman Reigns was facing Brock Lesnar in a singles match. I think after Raw Monday, we can safely say that won't be the case.
Mm-hmm.
So take that part out of it. Secondly, there's no guarantee that Brock's going to drop this title right now because, again, if he fights in UFC, he probably can't fight till December at the earliest. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to drop the title. Even if he does, he's still working No Mercy in September. And again, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean he's automatically leaving the company. It doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot here. He hasn't even put his name into the testing pool yet. Do I doubt that he's going back? No, I think he is. I think it's clear right now that he's going back to UFC in some form to work a fight. I've even heard some potential opponents that have been speculated. And I won't get into that because that's speculation, but I do think he's going back. I do think you'll see him there in 2018. Do I think he's going back now? No. Do I think he's going back in January? No, I don't. I think he's going to wait till after WrestleMania because he doesn't want to miss the payday. So that's the way I think it's going to be. I think he'll fight next spring or summer, and he'll get a big money fight, and then we'll see where he goes. But I think he's dropping the title at SummerSlam anyway, regardless if he's going to UFC or not. I think he's dropping the title. I just don't know who he's dropping it to. But that was a big rumor yesterday, and it's something that it bears watching. It's going to be a storyline right up to 34. We all know that. So we were just like the last time. Brock Lesnar's going to be in a match, and 2 days before, they'll let us know he resigned. Or re-upped, or the option was exercised, or whatever. We've been in this situation before. As long as Brock gets paid, I don't think he cares. So, Mike, you have any thoughts you want to contribute?
It's the first time I've heard this rumor. I'm not surprised. Not surprised whatsoever.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's too early in the game. Once he enters the testing pool, that's when we can start going, okay, what's going to happen here?
I think it's a matter of time before he does, but I think you're right. It probably won't even be till mid to late 2018.
I agree. Plus, I don't think, based on the rumors of who he might fight and who they're interested in having him match up with, I think it makes more sense to wait till mid 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my feeling, but we'll see. That's Brock getting the world, the internet talking. All right, so I got through everything. We got through everything. We jumped from entertainment to sports to wrestling. Good show. Good job. So that's it. We are done. As always, the show might be over. It's not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard by emailing us your thoughts, your feedback, emailing us, Facebook us, or tweeting us your feedback, your reactions, your opinions, your comments on things we said, things we talked about, topic ideas, or breaking news items from sports, entertainment, wrestling. You want to cover any of these things you can do. TV award submissions, remember, those can only be done by email only, so keep that in mind. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. For the TV award stuff, again, that's by email only. So email for the show, itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. And then make sure you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about the show, especially when it comes to scheduling. Obviously, last-minute postponement and delays can happen. I always try to let you know ahead of time, but obviously last-minute stuff can happen. So you want to make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get the latest information as it happens. And, of course, we post random thoughts and musings on there as well. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter so that you have access to all of that and more. So just search In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and Twitter, and then make sure that you follow us. If you'd like to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes, you have two ways to do that. You can stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search In the Spotlight 411, and you'll have access to every episode that we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. They'll all be available to you to stream anytime you wish. Just search again for In the Spotlight 411 on Google Plus and YouTube, and you'll have access to those episodes. That's every episode, mid-October 2015, all the way up until tonight's episode. They'll be available to you on those two sites. If you're not a fan of streaming, maybe you prefer to listen to us on the go instead of stream us. Maybe you don't like looking at us. Maybe you just like listening to us again instead of seeing us. Maybe you're interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, you can check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. And once you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both those sites, either Podbean or iTunes, depending on what site you're on. And you'll have access to every episode we've ever produced in the history of this show. That's almost going 7 years now. So every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011. Every episode from our Talk Show run from January 2011, all up to mid-October 2015. And all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up into tonight's episode, transferred into audio format for your convenience. All those episodes in order from the most recent date to those, all available to you anytime you want to listen to them, whether it's on the go or at home or wherever. You might be a long-time fan, want to check out an episode from 4 or 5 years ago, or a new fan, want to check out an episode like that for the first time. Maybe you missed a part of an episode, want to check out an episode again, missed an episode entirely. Any of this applies to you. You can check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, and have access to all of our episodes. Again, Podbean and iTunes, search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411, and you'll be able to listen to these episodes anytime you wish. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411, and you'll be able to do all that and more. I want to thank Mike for his cameo tonight. Thank you, Mike.
I got like 25% battery, so I'm going to say this real quick. thoughts and prayers and condolences to the family, friends, and fans of Chester Bennington of Lincoln
Yes.
Park.
Yep.
I imagine you covered that earlier, but I wanted to offer my sympathies. He was a big name in music. Big name in music. Lincoln Park was huge, and his loss is one that's going to be reverberated in the industry. And ironically, he died on Chris Cornell's birthday.
Wow.
Who died fairly similarly to Chester just a month or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
Strange, eerie, very, very sad, very tragic. And finally, this is the first time I can say this in like 2 days. It is time for bed. I'm going to sleep soundly tonight.
I bet. I want to thank myself for another great show. Pat myself on bank, and thank all of you for continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. So those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. We moved kind of quickly. We had a lot to do tonight. So, and again, the wrestling stuff we moved quickly through because, again, Battleground, nobody cares. I mean, no disrespect to some fans out there, WWE fans out there, but this is a pay-per-view that very few people are excited about. So, but we did it. We got through everything. That is it. Now, next week, a little bit different. I want to point this out. We will not be doing a show on Thursday next week. We'll be doing a show on Tuesday instead of Thursday next week. I've been doing them on Thursday. I know it's been easier, but we're going to do it next week on Tuesday. So just because I have a feeling if we did it next Thursday, I'd be really, really late. So I'm going to preemptive strike that. But so this coming Tuesday will be our next show. So you won't have to wait as long as you have for our next show. So this coming Tuesday, which is July the 25th, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time will be our next show, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube Live. That show will be doing some sports. If there's anything out of the golf this weekend that's big, we'll talk about it. I don't anticipate it. MLB, anything big on NBA or anything in sports we'll cover. Box office beat, TV highlights will be back. There's going to be a lot of entertainment on Tuesday's show because, as I said, we didn't talk about D23 tonight. I wanted to wait to talk about it. I figured we'll just do that with Comic-Con because Comic-Con's this weekend. We'll talk about all the big highlights from Comic-Con, all the big highlights from last weekend's D23. Talk about that on Tuesday. We'll talk about the Battleground, the fallout from Battleground, Raw, SmackDown, all that on Tuesday's show. So it'll be a big show this coming Tuesday. Again, that's this Tuesday, July the 25th. So we'll do all that on Tuesday. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great weekend, and a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here for our next show again this coming Tuesday night, July the 25th at 9 o'clock from Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube. Until then, have a good night, everybody.